Onassis Foundation. Dublab.
Welcome to the Quarantine Tapes, a daily podcast from Onassis LA and Dublab. Hosted by Paul Holdengräber, this series chronicles shifting paradigms in the era of social distancing.
Hello?
Hello, could I please speak with Angel Bat Dawid?
Mrs. C?
Angel,
Paul?
it is indeed, Angel. It's such a pleasure to hear your voice, and thank you so much for taking the time of being part of these quarantine tapes. I'm so
Thank you.
I'm so very pleased you're part of it. Where do I find you during these perplexing times?
I'm in Chicago.
And what are you doing with your days?
My days are filled with a lot of composing and recording, also a lot of self-care, taking care of myself, slowing down. You know, if we're living in this time where we have to be isolated and not be around people, well, let's take advantage of that time and work on ourselves. That's what I feel like this is the point of trying to make sense of all of this, you know?
What has a slowing down, which is a theme I want to tell you, Angel, has come back again and again and again. Mm-hmm. People are talking about slowness and about what it has afforded them.
Yes, I actually started this slowing down process about 6 months ago. I was on tour in Europe, and you know, all the fast pace of setting up shows, I realized that I actually had better results when I didn't put anxiety on any of my projects and I actually slowed down. And so I started intentionally slowing down a lot in my life about 6 months ago. I was like, I'm not going to do anxiety in 2020. I also turned 40. I turned 40 in October. And I told myself, I'm not doing this decade with anxiety, with stress. I'm going to enjoy my life. I worked so hard my entire life to be a full-time musician, and now I am one. There's no way that I'm going to be going around being stressed out and anxious about my dreams. So I already started the process of slowing down. And like I said, I'm not doing anxiety anymore. And I was checking other people too. Like when people were getting on me, I was like, look, no, I'm not going to speed up and all that kind of stuff because I have better results when I slow down. So this is even slowing it down even more. I
love the idea that when you said slowing down, you said slowing down. You said it even slower. And you were talking about self-care. And I'm wondering what of that self-care you can share with us, what you're doing differently now, even more so than 6 months ago.
Even more so than 6 months ago, the slowing down, self-care things, like little things like, I went to Body Shop and I was like, when do you really scrub your back? When do you take the time to scrub your back? So I bought a back scrubber. Little things like that. Just taking the time to, when I wash my face, do affirmations about my face and say, you know, I have a beautiful face made by the Most High. You know, while I'm brushing my teeth, I bless my mouth. These are little things that you skip when you're running out the house. You know, making my bed every day because I deserve to, you know, like when you go to a hotel, don't you like going to a hotel and the bed's made? Don't I deserve that for myself every day? Doing the 5 Tibetan rites, you know, the 5 Tibetan rites are these 5 moves that this explorer found, you know, decades ago, that these Tibetan monks were really, really strong, even though they were old. And he realized they were just doing these 5 moves. So doing those every day have been adding a lot of strength and vitality, you know, getting fruits and vegetables, you know, taking care of ourselves, especially, you know, because this decade, being 40, I was like, I'm going to do my life differently now. I'm not going to do all that running around. Because even though this is tragic that, you know, we have this horrible virus that's actually killing people, and it's a very, very sad time, it also is a time where, like, I'll look outside and I'll see people taking a walk or families walking. I didn't see that in my neighborhood. Families are getting together now because they have to, and so I always try to look on the brighter side of things, because we can sit here and rehash the issue. Yes, it is horrible that people are suffering so much from this virus. But what do we do if we're not suffering and our family is safe and our friends are safe? Are we going to sit around and be pessimistic? Let's use this time wisely to improve our lives. Playing music. Like, I've been composing quite a lot, composing and recording. And with the nature of how I do my music career, a lot of it I've already been online and, practicing at home and sending emails or sending recordings. People hit me up for different projects. I can just do it from home anyway. So it actually benefits me.
In a way, you've been preparing for quite some time. I mean, obviously not knowing what you were preparing for. I love that. Yeah.
I'm realizing that you're right. I've been preparing for this, and I didn't even know.
Well, it's interesting that last comment of yours, because there's a French writer I very much love, Pierre Macorlan, who said, improvisation is something you prepare.
Mm-hmm, it is.
Tell me how that resonates with you.
It resonates with me because I'm able to improvise because of all the studying and practicing and self-disciplines that I've had as a musician since I was a little girl. If you have all these tools, like knowing your scales and knowing the music theory and knowing how to compose and knowing how to record, all those things I just most of it, like theory and stuff I went to school for, music theory, but like recording and things was self-taught. And having those tools means I'm prepared for anything. I'm prepared because improvisation, and I like to use, Gary Bart, wonderful Gary Bart.
Tell me.
He has the best definition of the difference between improvisation and being a spontaneous composer. Improvisation is, you had in your mind it was going to go some way, like the way that you want it, but it didn't. And so then you have to make it work and then turn it into something else. That's improvisation. Being a spontaneous composer is, I know exactly what chords and what things I'm going to in my head, and I'm going to use those tools very intentionally during a performance or during a solo. So it's not just, we're just playing anything. No, it's actually very prepared. And one of the best definitions that I feel of what the definition for luck is, I've heard it several times, I don't know who made it up, was that luck is preparation meets opportunity.
Picasso, who said inspiration should find you working.
Exactly. Faith without works is dead. The Bible says that.
Yeah.
If you don't, it's like if you have faith in something, which is you believe in something, but you don't see it, you have no evidence of it. You work, your work will manifest that thing. So it's not just sitting around like, I'm going to do this great thing, and you're just sitting around. No, because you have this thing inside of you, faith, you work towards it, and then you get results.
I always, in terms of improvisation, I love that quotation of Pierre Macorlan, improvisation is something you prepare. Of course, you prepare it to a point. But then Charlie Mingus, for me, that sentence of his is really haunting. It's accompanied me for a very long time. He says, improvise, yes, but you have to improvise on something.
Yes.
And
I heard that, yeah.
I imagine that must speak to you loud and clear. And you were saying that during this quarantine time, you've been playing a lot of music and listening perhaps also to a lot of music. So you've been playing these days. Are you improvising with yourself, as it were?
Yeah, it's interesting to say improvising, because I thought of it not just musically, but just my life in general.
Right.
Things don't always go as planned. And then you have to improvise, and I realized that it's something that I do with my entire life. So when it comes to music, it's just seamless. And becoming more of an improviser, because my musical story is I was classically trained. And for years and years and years, I felt really stuck to written music. And that really disturbed me, because I'm like, how am I supposed to be a musician? I can't play unless there's music in front of me. So I learned how to read really well. It was until I started going to free jazz jam sessions here in Chicago that it opened me up to the idea that, oh, wait, 'cause I went to one. I went to a very, very popular one here, and I was very nervous because jazz is a whole nother. I was classical, you know, and they were like, "Get on stage and just play anything." I was like, "What do you mean play anything?" I was like, "You're not gonna give me no chords or nothing." They're like, "Just play." And I was like, "You really can do that?" They're like, "Yeah." And so when you listen to like more avant-garde jazz, like Sun Ra or Albert Ayler and things like that, it opened up a lot for me because it allowed me to express myself more. And then I already had these, you know, classically trained in theory background. So when I put them together, it exploded. And my musicianship just went through. Like now I can play anything. If I hear anything, I can play anything. And if I don't know it, I know I can figure it out and make something work.
Fantastic. I heard you mention Sun Ra in a very early conversation I had for the quarantine tapes. I spoke with Henry Rollins, who loves Sun Ra, and he said, the music is listening.
Sun Ra is super important to my music.
Tell me.
So, like, it's music. The first time I saw or heard about Sun Ra was from my dad because he had spaces to play, and we had it on VHS. And I was like maybe about 13 or 14. And he put it on, and I never heard anything like that before. Yeah. It blew my mind. I was like, what? And then the movie and the visuals. And so I'd always knew about Sun Ra. And I didn't fully understand more free jazz or avant-garde music. But I knew I was really, really drawn to it. And so I always had it in my playlist and things like that. About 6 years ago, I decided to make a leap of faith to be a musician full-time. And so I took a year off to just say yes to projects that I would say no to because I had a full-time job that I hated. And during that year, it was like this. It was like this how I was like self-contained in my house. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. And this was back in the day when they had like Pirate Bay. And I know it's wrong. I used to download a lot of free music. And I saw this box. It was like all of Sun Ra's records on Pirate Bay. And so I was like, oh, so I downloaded it and I forgot about it. I forgot I downloaded it. And then a week later, I was like, what? I got every Sun Ra record. And so what I did was I started to just play put it on, you know, random and play it in my house 24/7, even when I wasn't at home. You know, it was just like, it was just all the music was just bombarding me and hitting me, and I would play my instrument to it. And, you know, he became like, you know, his message and the music was really like getting into my soul. And a lot of my friends were into it as well. So they would come over to my house and we would jam together. And the jam sessions started getting so deep that we were like, man, we need to do an organization. We need to be like ACM, you know, Association for the Dance Musicians. So we loved them too. We were just like so absorbed in the music that we started our own organization called Participatory Music Coalition, and we started doing events around the city. No one was booking us. No one knew who we were. We were like, it doesn't matter about that. We just want to perform. From that, it turned into compositions amongst us, and from that, it just kept growing and growing. So all of us are all doing great. You know, this musical community we have here in Chicago, and a lot of that I think about, you know, Sun Ra and how they have like the community, like Marshall Allen, and then they still all live together, you know, in a house. It wasn't just for entertainment; it was like their life. And so, he's very, very influential into my musicality. And when you talk about improvisation, I know that there's a song where they say, "You make a mistake, you do something wrong, make another mistake, and do something right." You know, you're going to make mistakes. Things are not going to go as planned. But if you have the necessary tools and wisdom, do the right thing. Do what is right. And you know what is right. Nobody has to tell you what is right or wrong. You know. You know?
Well, you know, hearing you jam like that with yourself, I can't resist, Angel, asking you if you might play something for us.
I would love to play something for you. And one thing about the way that I do music is I do believe that music is the healing force of the universe. There's a great album by Albert Ayler. I recommend that everybody get it. And I'm going to send this tone out to everyone who is affected by this pandemic. right now.
That is wonderful. Can you say again what the name of the album is? I didn't quite catch it.
Oh yeah, it is Music is the Healing Force of the Universe. It's by Albert Eiler. It's on Impulse. It's a fantastic album. It's one of my favorite albums, actually. I have the LP.
How fantastic. We'll all get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, here it is.
I'm listening.
This is for the world.
Carefully. Thank you, for the world.
You're welcome. Peace, light, and love.
That is so tremendous.
Thank you, Paul.
Angel, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want you to say something more about this intriguing notion about music as being a power that might heal, and how you understand that.
Well, we take for granted the power of sound. You know, there's all these legends and mythologies that say that the universe was created by sound. In fact, we say universe. Verse has to do with words and sound. I believe that, you know, the pyramids and all these structures that we look at, some of them they use sound to move things. John Coltrane was an advocate of this. You know, I've heard quotes where he said, if my friend is sick, I should be able to pull my instrument out and play over them in their heels. Okay. If my friend is having financial problems, I should be able to pull my instrument out, and that sound and that tone should change things. And we see this. That's why music is so important to the world. Why are we always buying music? Why do you go into a store and they're playing music? Why are there all these billions of dollars spent on music? Because this is my own statistic. I believe people make statistics up all the time. I'm not making this up, but we're 90% music. And I really do feel that if we're 90% music like water, then we should be doing music all the time. It shouldn't be just for entertainment. And I just believe that. You know, if people think I'm silly for it, I don't care. We believe all sorts of silly stuff. You know, like we believe that the human body is weak. It's not weak. The human body is the strongest, most resilient, adaptable organism in the world. You know, but if we continually think that we're weak and that we need someone else to tell us, you know, what health is, you know, when you can talk to your body and tell you exactly what you need. You know, sound is the same way.
Yeah,
you know,
you've said that you have a need to improvise your way out of suffering.
Exactly, which is very important to Black people.
Right. Tell me about that in particular.
Yes. So in the fall, I was commissioned to compose a piece, and there's this great movie called The Cry of Jazz, and in the movie, it's a weird little documentary. It's integrated. It's made in the late 60s, and it's an integrated cast of Black and white getting together talking about race and music, and can white people play jazz or is it just for Black people? And one of the main things we talked about is that jazz is the Negro's cry of joy and suffering, of both. Wow. The music is what got us through. So when people play jazz and they don't acknowledge the history of jazz coming from people who were suffering, and that this music wasn't just for entertainment, it was how we were surviving. And when you disregard that in the universities and they don't want to talk about the history of Black music, and it's not just jazz, it's great Black music, and how this music has helped us overcome, that's a travesty. And that's something that I'm really, really an advocate for. So when I composed this piece, and one of the main things about the movie is he says jazz is dead. Back in 1960, when it was like the greatest year of jazz, why would he say jazz is dead? And when I thought about it, I was like, well, jazz is dead. Why wasn't there a funeral? And because of my love of classical music, I always loved Mozart's Requiem. I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a Requiem for jazz. And so I premiered the Requiem in last fall, and it was really deep because, we went into the spirituals, which is where jazz, blues, hip hop, everything came from the spirituals. And because my ancestors, they, in their time of oppression, they would sneak out into the woods and have these services called hush harbors. And in those hush harbors is where the spirituals wasn't just code for them to get to freedom land. And we know freedom land wasn't just a physical land. They were talking about something else. They was talking about a land whose cities ain't, whose foundations ain't here in this world. Because how else was he supposed to survive? And so music from that, you got these songs, the spirituals. And from those spirituals came all of the music, the Black music that we all listen to today, hip hop, blues, R&B, all of it has its roots in the spirituals. So I've been doing a lot of research about that and how what the spirituals did. A lot of them are definitely in minor keys. And there's a great jazz drummer by the name of Milford Graves. And he has a theory that the minor keys activate your sympathetic nervous system. Wow. And the sympathetic nervous system is connected to your tear ducts. And the tear ducts releases the water, and that water helps you get through. Them tears, they help you get through. So when we sing the blues, we sing jazz, those are all technologies that my people use to get through such horrible things. How did we get through that? We use those ancient sounds. We use them, and we still use them. So this music is deeper than just entertainment or getting paid. Nah, this is how we've been surviving.
Or background music. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's on the foreground, not the background.
Yeah, this is how we've been surviving. And I just want to continue that legacy that my people have and bringing an awareness to the world. Like, we can only be aware if we slow down. Time to slow down so we can be aware that maybe we can use this sound. Let's continue to use our doctors and our hospitals and all the professionals. But hey, why not add, hey, let's do some humming together. I've been advocating this because the jam session is so important. The jam session was how me and my friends have gotten through so much together. We still call each other, what you doing? We can't do it now, but what you doing?
I was wondering, Angela, that must be really, really difficult for you now.
Yeah, it really is.
Because, you and I now are having a wonderful, I think, conversation on the phone, and the phone is I think an extraordinary instrument that I've always loved, because one can hear the grain of the voice. One can actually, I can nearly sense you, even though we haven't met. I get a sense of your enthusiasm and your passion and your vocation. But as a musician, it is so important for you to jam with other musicians. And I constantly, when reading all these wonderful liner notes of long playing records, which I tend to much prefer, you read about all these, especially jazz musicians, really looking at each other, listening. Ben Webster listening very carefully to when the drum section comes in, and vice versa. And how do you manage now in these quarantine times? It must be hard.
It is very hard, but there's a time and a season for everything.
Beautiful.
There's a time to jam together, and then there's a time to be separate and alone. And that's very hard for people, especially in our community. We have a real tight music community here in Chicago. We had a practice of jamming together. Like monthly, daily is like, let's get together and jam. And yeah, it is challenging because I physically miss my friends. And it's not the same doing these online quarantine It's just not the same.
Really not.
It's just not.
No. I mean, who are we deluding believing that? I mean, I always love this. There's this English psychoanalyst who says you can't tickle yourself.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't.
You just have to. We
need others. We need others. Badly.
Yeah,
we need others badly to jam. I need you to have a conversation.
Yeah, we're relational.
Yeah,
human beings are relationship. Like we need to, and that was actually the isolation that this is forced isolation, but we've secretly been doing this for a while because, we have these phones and people weren't looking at each other anyway.
Right.
You would go to a restaurant. I would go to a restaurant and I would see no one talking to each other. They would all be on their phones right in front of each other.
They would be talking.
And I always,
they would be talking to Mr.
or
Apple.
checking the internet.
Yeah, I know.
And now we were already isolating ourselves, and that I was already preaching this to several people. I was like, because we do live in this wonderful age of technology where we can do all this great stuff, we're going to have to be way more intentional about being human beings.
Right.
One thing that human beings need is they need to be in the same room with each other, breathing the same air. They need to be
and fighting sometimes, fighting over. And I know, for instance, you like bringing about sometimes uncomfortable arguments into a conversation, and I'm thinking particularly.
We have to get it all out in the open, because how else are we going to heal?
I'm thinking.
How else are we going to heal?
I'm thinking
if we don't let it all come out in the open.
I'm thinking particularly of this Nina Simone line where she says jazz is a white
Hello?
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Nina Simone, who said jazz is a white term to define black people. My music is black classical music.
Yes.
Tell me.
Yes. Nina, I try to, stay with that legacy of what she was saying. All her music is protest music.
Right.
People act like, people want to put Nina Simone on some, like it's some entertainment. It's not that. Her moves was all about, y'all not about to do this to us. Y'all not about to sit here and trivialize this and put this in a little package to market it. No. I'm going to say whatever is on my mind, and y'all are going to come to my concerts, and you're going to listen. You're going to listen, and you're going to love it. I always am encouraged.
And you're going to feel uncomfortable, because when you listen to Mississippi, goddamn, my goodness.
Come on.
It's powerful, and you better listen to the lyrics, and you better listen to the anger, and you better feel it, and you better do something about it. Yes,
you better. I mean, look how powerful a force of her to just keeping the integrity of that and fighting and protesting. Bob Marley, one of my favorite Bob Marley songs is War. He puts music to Haile Selassie, one of Haile Selassie's speech, and he says, until the philosophy which holds one race superior and another inferior is completely eradicated, it's all going to be war. And right now, it's still that. So for most of my music is protest music. It really is. The love is a protest, my album, The Oracle, is all protest songs. I didn't know it was, but it's all to challenge the world to say, hey, y'all, things still aren't right. It's not right. It's still not right in my community. Black people are still suffering. And the suffering that we have is stemmed because of the historical aspect of what this country has done to Black people for centuries. It's still not right. I can still listen to Nina Simone, and unfortunately, if she was still alive today, she would still be protesting. Things aren't right. So how do we get it right? I'm going to put it in your face. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to heal. And whatever emotions come up, we're going to tackle it and deal with it. This isn't to bring up trauma, to stay traumatized. This is to bring up trauma so that we can heal this wound.
Angel, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you so much. I wish you well in Chicago. I hope someday to hear you jam. My goodness, thank you for playing for us. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for being part of the Quarantine Tapes. Continue to take good care of yourself, and let us meet in better times.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Paul, for the interview.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
All the best to you. Stay well.
All the best to you as well. Be well. Peace and love.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
To support this show and Dublab's progressive programming, go to dublab.com/support.